I don't think there's any advice that you can give someone because everybody experiences it a little differently. Um, I think that you need to be there for them. Sometimes it's through touch, sometimes it's through quiet. Sometimes if you pick up the cue from them, you can say to them that you know how painful and how difficult this is, that they feel like their heart has just broken, and just that you would be there for them, I think.
Okay. Let me ask you, let me turn the direction around a little bit more to, um, how did you guys deal with it? I mean, was it a situation where just throughout the illness you were slowly preparing yourselves, or was it, um, once she passed, was it like this big hit?
Mm,
Well, oh,
We, when she was first diagnosed, and it was a surprise, and we didn't know what was going to happen. And like I said, one of my students asked me how I was doing, and I told her for the first time in my life, I knew what a broken heart felt like. Um, when she relapsed the second time, it was just really frightening because we didn't know what was going to happen. The other shoe dropped. She relapsed, and we didn't know what options would be available and what would happen. The third time that she had to undergo treatment, she was old enough then for us to be able to talk about. We didn't know what was going to happen. She was really upset. She was 12 and, saying, just when I've been healthy for a while and now this comes back. And I said to her, you have a choice. We don't have a choice about the diagnosis. We don't have a choice of what happened, but you do have a choice on how you deal with the situation that you're in now. You can either feel sorry for yourself and kind of not be a part of life, or you can decide how you want to live your life and live it. When she did, when we knew that all of the chemo had been exhausted and she wasn't going to get better and that she was terminal, she died within probably 10 days. But yeah, like Mike said, from the time she was diagnosed, we always knew that there was a possibility that she wouldn't make it. And you prepare, but you don't prepare. It's unnatural for a child to die before a parent. And when it did happen, we were at the hospital. She was only in the hospital for about a half an hour because her platelets were low, and she was going to the hospital to get some platelets, and it was just too late for that. And it was a surprise, but all of the people who had been involved in her treatment, interestingly, even people who we hadn't seen for years, seemed to be at the hospital, and they came to the room, and we sort of had a little wake going on there for a while, and it was comforting to have the people who had been through this with us for a long time, and they, as healthcare people, they need to be able to share in the grief too, because they feel it too.
the most important thing for someone who's lost a loved one, be it a child, a parent, a spouse, is they are always going to have that person as a part of their life. And the most important thing you can do is let them talk about that person. Let them talk about their child. Let them reminisce. And that's the most important thing, is that they don't want that child, that parent, whoever passed on, to be forgotten. They won't forget them, and they want other people to remember them the same way. So it's important for you to sit there and talk to them. If you have stories about that person, talk to them. Being Irish, wakes are a big thing. You know, when you get together, you talk about the good times and even the bad times that you may have had with the people, but it helps the person work through that. there's no right answer to give them. You can't say, well, they're in a better place, because you know what? They don't care if they're in the better place. They're missing them. As far as the second question, how do you handle the death of your own child? Christy's attitude was always that she didn't want any pity parties, that she lived each day as though it was the last day of her life. There's an old Chinese proverb, and it says, may you die, may your son die, and may your grandchildren die. In other words, may life had its natural progression. For us and many other parents, they didn't have that progression. They lost a child. It's important for them to know that other people still think about that child. We're lucky. We still have friends who talk about Christy, and they talk about her in the first place. They talk about her as though she's present, if not physically, spiritually. I remember when we did this with Christy. When I have a hard day, I think about all the hard days that Christy have, and it helps me work through those things. And it's important for people to realize that they're never going to forget that person for as long as they live. And let them talk about that person. You talk back to them, reconfirm what they're saying, and let them know that you still care about that individual who died, that child, regardless whether it was a newborn or maybe even an adult child, because it's not natural to bury your own children.